Well, hello. How are you guys doing? It's just been one of those months. I know I haven't done a video in a while, so, do excuse me a little bit. Between work and everything else like that, it's just been driving me nuts. A little bit of an update, though. I did go out and buy another firearm. For the deal I got for it, I could not resist. It was a great deal for what I got. I figured I'd show you. Well, you're noticing one thing. Why do I have 4 weapons on the table? Beats me. Obviously, you see my little house training tool. I could take this outside and use that for training. If I can't get down to the range, you see my everyday carry. God, I love this little thing. Definitely one of the most reliable ones I've had. I put I don't know how many rounds through it. I lost count. So, wait a second. Why do I have... Bigger than my 1911. What the... What could be bigger than a 1911? I don't know. Could be a Desert Eagle. Your guess is as good as mine. Huh. Dang. Oh. I love that toy. So, without further ado, what could it possibly be, right? Another Glock. Yes, it's another Glock. This one is a little bit different opposed to your normal Glocks that you'll find. Obviously, you see major differences. You can tell by the grip. You can tell by the missing hole, right? It's either a first or second generation. First generation, you could tell just by the grip, and that's exactly what this is. Now, as for some other things about it, well, obviously no Picatinny rail because they weren't really putting accessories on weapons back then, and nobody really saw a need for them. Biggest issue, or biggest thing you'll notice, the compensator. Well, it's not the original barrel, as you can kind of tell. The barrel on this is, as far as I can tell, it's an earlier Storm Lake. That's at least as far as I could tell. The other thing you're going to notice about this weapon too, at least on the earlier first generations, is the Austrian proof marks. You're going to have them here, here, and if I had the original barrel, you'd find it on the barrel as well. Glocks were always famous for putting their serial numbers on multiple parts of the weapon. Obviously it's unloaded. As for what's done to this, other than the barrel, the trigger has been modified. The place where I bought it gave me a little bit of insight on the weapon. He said it was an older gentleman who traded it in. He used it mainly as a target shooting weapon. The weight on this thing is a lot less than my Glock 19, hands down. The Glock 17, at least the first generations, were a lot easier, were a lot lighter than this one. This one you can definitely tell just by looking at, or just by picking up the slide. I'll tell you what, let's take them down. Like I said, it seems like it's got an earlier Storm Lake barrel. I mean, obviously there's no proof marks on it, so I can't tell you. but you can see all the internals are fairly original. I don't think he ended up going to the extent of polishing some of the parts, but the trigger's definitely been modified. It's definitely a lot lighter than a factory trigger. Other main thing you're going to notice, look at the recoil spring. It's not like a modern day. Now if I take apart my Glock 19, you'll see what I mean. It's not all in one, right? So you actually have to act like this with your Springfields, and you actually have to compress the spring. So it's not a bad thing either. The internals are all the same. Unfortunately, you can't take the Glock 17 barrel and put it in a 19. I've already done my research. I mean, you probably could if I got a shorter spring, shorter guide rod, whole 9 yards. You probably could get away with it, but I'm not going to go to that extent. Unfortunately, the reason why I can't trace the barrel is because there's no proof marks on it. You know, there's nothing on it that says Storm Lake. There's nothing on it that says Lone Wolf. Nothing like that. But the reason why I'm saying, the only reason why I'm guessing it's a Storm Lake. Storm Lake has been around longer than Lone Wolf, and they're one of the only other companies, besides a couple other ones, that are making aftermarket barrels for Glocks. So that's the main thing I was looking at. The workmanship is definitely there with Storm Lake. I mean, obviously it feels almost like a plastic compensator, but more than likely probably just an aluminum one. It's got the set screw in it, which is actually a metric. So, I mean, there was a couple key telltale signs that said Storm Lake. First thing, the guy said, and I quote, "The barrel was made by a company that was one of the first ones to make Glock aftermarket barrels." Storm Lake started making them in 1982. So, that's the whole thing. Now, for those of you who are Glock haters, and there are enough of you guys out there, you guys don't have to hide yourself. You can say, I hate Glock, but you gotta realize you probably never picked up a Glock. You know, oh, I love 1911s. Yeah, so do I. But I own Glocks. Well, I love Springfield. Hey, you know what? I love them too. Guess what? I still own Glocks. Glocks have a place in every home. Now, a little bit of history on Glocks. Right? Now, I'm going to just use this. This is actually pulled off of their website. In 1963, Glock was formed. Right? In 1970, they started making knives, training grenades, and machine gun belts. So they were obviously already in the weapon industry before they even pushed out their own weapon. In 1980, they are invited to develop a sidearm for the Austrian army. Cool. 1981, the safe action trigger is born. So, 1981, 30 some odd years. 31 years right now. So, or actually 32, sorry. So this trigger has been around for a while. Nice. 1982, they're commissioned by the Austrian army to make the official sidearm. And what do you think that official sidearm was? Hi, how are you? Weapon's been around for a while. 1983, the Glock 17 is delivered. The first 30,000 to the Austrian army. Wow. Cool. 30,000 of those rolled off and were delivered. 1985. This is where it gets interesting. That's when Glock started importing them into the U.S. Cool. So you're talking the earlier Glocks still had the Austrian proof marks. And you could trace any Glock by its serial number. You could see when it was made. This one was actually made in July of '87. There's just telltale signs. But the one thing that they ended up doing away with, Austrian proof marks. They did away with these after, I forgot when they stopped doing them. I think it was back in '88 or something like that. They stopped doing away with the Austrian proof marks. You know, you can obviously tell the difference, right? Made in Austria, Glock Corp, Georgia. On the bottom of the grip, you can still see the patent number. This one just says Glock Corp. Doesn't say where it's made, but it still has the proof marks. It's definitely a nice, older weapon. The first generations are getting harder and harder to find. So, is that a bad thing? Not at all. Wait, crazy? Glocks are reliable. You have to do a little bit of maintenance on them, like any other firearm. First thing I did when I got this one home, I cleaned it. I don't know how that gun store cleaned it. I don't know if they cleaned it. So I like to strip down whatever somebody else put on and use my own products. I'm very picky when it comes to lubrication on weapons. Very picky. I like to actually look at testing and stuff like that. Yeah, I've done my research with this weapon. I do research with almost any weapon I buy used. Yeah, I don't go as far as to say, you know, hey, are you the owner of my old weapon? No. I'm talking about with earlier weapons. I like to find out when they're made. We already know point blank the third generations. You know, they're still fairly new. First generations are kind of hard. Not only that, it gets you so that this way you get to know the weapon a little bit better. Now, I know Glock is saying, hey, you know what? Send us out your first generations. You know, we'll put in third generation parts. You know, we'll even drill it out. No, I'm not doing that. You know, I mean, obviously, if the old owner of the weapon is looking at his old gun and you have your old barrel, by all means, if you want, I'll come down to you. I'll pick up the old barrel if you have it. You know, because I want to keep it as original as possible. Now, weight differences. The Glock 17 is lighter than my 19. Hands down. You know, there's a lot more meat on the 19. And this is the third gen versus the original. About the only thing I'd probably end up doing is taking a little bit of, I don't know if you want to call it sandpaper or whatnot, but probably putting some Talon grips or something like that on here just to give it a little bit of a better feel. I don't know. I mean, Glocks are reliable. Simple maintenance is all they require. So for $450, I have a target weapon. You know, ammo is still a little on the hard side to find, but it can be sought after. This will always have a place in my heart. This will always too. The place I bought it from was actually a small shop. You know, I walked out with it that day, and I ended up haggling down on the price a little bit. Only for the reason why I saw it. I looked at them, I go, well, what's it going to cost me out the door? Well, I go, what's it going to cost me out the door if I pay cash? Cash is always a key part. The Glock 17 can also be used as a great home defense weapon. Somebody wants to break into your house, you can easily just grab it. It's got a nice feel. The slide's easy to work. It's definitely a great tool. And besides, you know, how could you go really wrong with a Glock? I know I can't. Cool. So, anyways, next videos I'm going to be putting out are going to be a little bit different. We're going to get back into the maintenance aspect. We're going to get back into lubrications, magazine maintenance, you know, just basic maintenance on weapons, from cleaning to lubrications, right? Should actually be a good video. It's going to be a little on the lengthy side, much like this one. But I've got some family to meet up with since it is Easter. Happy Easter to all of you guys, if you guys are actually watching. So, well, let me get done with what I got to do, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Have fun, be safe, and have a good one.